For 2024, Nissan has re-released the Nismo version of its popular Z sports car. The Nismo is faster, more powerful, and more track-focused than the standard Z, but there might be a problem with it. Now, I'm not going to keep you waiting. We're going to get right into the most important part of the Nismo Z, and that is driving it. Now, the big story here is that we've got more power than a standard Z. Same 3-liter twin turbocharged V6 that first appeared in Infiniti vehicles like the Q50 and Q60. Here, it produces 420 horsepower and 384 pound-feet of torque. Those are increases of 20 horsepower and 34 pound-feet compared to the standard Z. Whether you get the base sport trim or you get the performance trim, the Nismo is the most powerful version of this engine that Nissan has ever sold. Now, the part that is bound to ruffle a few feathers is the transmission. Whereas the standard Z is available with a 6-speed manual, the Nismo is only available with a 9-speed automatic. Now, I've talked to Nissan about this, and they say the reason why they went with an automatic rather than a manual is because it's faster. It simply is. This car, the Nismo version of the Z, is made more with a track focus in mind. So if you want to be faster on the track, you're going to need an automatic, and they have improved this automatic from the standard Z. We've got upgraded clutch packs. It's a little bit stronger than before, to deal with the extra power. We also have increased engine and oil cooling on this Nismo model, to help keep it, standing up on the track. So a lot of various improvements here to increase the performance. And the way that they've increased the engine performance is mainly through turbo management. We've got increased engine management. Basically, they're able to spool the turbos faster and for longer now. That's what's giving you that power increase. And yeah, the standard Z is not a slow car, but this is very quick. Now, it's not just power where Nissan has improved the driving experience here. We also have about 2.5% increase in torsional rigidity. The lateral rigidity increase is a little bit higher than that. I believe it's around 11%, and you do feel that out on the road. They wanted the standard Z to be a sports car that you could drive every day, and they haven't removed that entirely. This is still, it doesn't beat you up, the Nismo, but it's definitely firmer. On like a smooth road, you won't really notice it that much, but I did encounter some rough tarmac on the way to this windy road, and yeah, you definitely feel a lot of those road imperfections being transmitted through the suspension on this Nismo model, so plan accordingly. If you're not really going to do any track driving, I think you're probably good with the standard Z. This Nismo model is definitely firmer than the regular model. You also get wider tires. It's 285s in the back now, giving you a little bit more grip. It's a tire that's very similar to what you get on the Nissan GT-R. It's not exactly the same though. And we do get upgraded brakes as well. That is something that I really wanted to see them do, because the brakes on the standard Z couldn't really stand up to track abuse. So if you are a track rat that plans to take this car on a track day, that is something you are going to want to upgrade to the Nismo for. In terms of drive modes, we actually get a new one here for the Nismo specifically. So we've got our standard mode, our sport mode, and then we have a sport plus mode that is not available on other Z models. Now, I've driven it a little bit. Ooh, it sounds pretty good. The Sport Plus mode is going to hold those shifts longer. The transmission shifts are quicker. They say it's a little bit quicker on the upshifts, but it's a lot quicker on the downshifts. That's something that they wanted to focus on here. Yeah, the Sport Plus mode definitely holding me in longer. I love those pops from the exhaust. The steering is very sharp on center. I actually really enjoy this car. I really liked driving the old 370Z Nismo. It always felt like a really sharp car with very heavy steering. This is a little bit lighter than that, but it does have that sharpness on center that I really like. The brakes The pedal, I just am not getting that brake feel through the pedal that I really like, the confidence on this type of road. Something that I'll note about the way that the Z is shaped, because you have that big open trunk back there, you can just kind of hear your bag sliding back and forth. I would really want like a cargo net to make sure it's held down in place, something that you used to deal with on the old Corvettes. On a tight road like this, I'm not really able to exercise all the power of this car, but I do have plenty of grip from those wider tires, so that is quite nice. And I really like the steering, I will say. I think this is a very sharp car. It sounds good. The stiffer suspension is really nice. I don't feel myself, leaning too much into these corners. I will say these seats, these Nismo Sport seats, which I'll talk about a little later when we focus on the interior, they are not quite as aggressive as the seats that you would get in a GTR or even the outgoing 370Z Nismo. I remember those were like real like sport buckets. These have a lot more cushioning to them. Better for daily driving, maybe not quite as good on a track. So just something you might want to note when looking at the Z Nismo. So now that we've driven the Nismo Z, let's go ahead and check out the interior properly. There are some nice changes in here, similar to what we had on the 370Z Nismo, but not quite the same. We do have these nice Recaro seats. They're a mixture of leather and suede. You've got red leather here in the middle. You've got kind of black suede here with a little bit of red underneath, and then black leather on the outside. You do have your harness points here, so you can run a harness here. These headrests are actually quite comfortable. I will say that these seats are a lot softer and more livable than what you used to get on the 370Z Nismo, as I mentioned in my street drive. So I do actually really like these seats. They're not the most comfortable in the world, but for Nismo Recaro seats, they're not bad. We do have a different steering wheel than what you're going to get on the standard Z here as well. You get a little bit of Alcantara here on the side, leather on the top, and then we have our 12 o'clock marker. The rest of the wheel is pretty much the same. We do have red buttons for our start and drive modes here. That is a little bit different than what we get on the standard Z. Again, just like I said in my standard Z review, we have a lot of hard points that carry over from the 370Z and in fact from the 350Z, including these air vents that are kind of on the door here. The air actually comes from here, and then there's this little bridge here that when you close it, it completes the cycle and then you get the air out of here. Kind of interesting. As you can see, we have a slightly different gauge cluster than what we're going to get in the standard Z. It's actually the same gauge cluster, but it's red here in the middle just to draw a little bit more focus to it. This is the track setting. So you've got your tachometer right in the middle. It's really cool. You can cater what's on the side here, so you can have your boost pressure, G-force, or you can have your tire pressures. And then using the steering wheel button, you can change the meter view. So that's the sport mode. This is going to be your normal setting where you kind of have your tach and your speedometer, and then you can change what's in the middle. And then you can have your enhanced mode like you can in other Nissans, where your drive information like fuel economy, maybe you want your navigation prompts in the middle. You're not doing any serious driving. You're just commuting. So I do like the customizability of this screen. In addition to the digital gauge cluster, we also have the analog gauges. These carry over from the 370Z, although they're a little bit different. You get a boost gauge. Obviously, the 370Z didn't have turbochargers. We do have a little bit more boost pressure to observe here on this Nismo Z versus the standard car. On the base 2024Z, you're going to get an 8-inch touchscreen with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Stepping up to the Performance, or this Nismo, gets you the larger 9-inch screen with wireless CarPlay. It's a pretty good screen. It's very similar to what other Nissans have. I have not too many issues with it. I do love that there's a big volume knob and a big tuning knob. That makes it really easy. And I do really like the half manual, half automatic climate controls here. You can adjust the temperature here, or you can go ahead and put it into the auto mode. So I do really like the dual functionality of that. As I mentioned on the drive, the big gripe here with some enthusiasts is going to be this 9-speed automatic transmission. On my brief street drive, I did like it. I think they did do a good job making it feel a little bit more crisp than it did in the standard Z. But again, if you're one of those people that just wants to leave a comment saying how angry you are about them getting rid of the manual, go ahead and do so. It'll drive engagement. Be sure to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell while you are leaving that comment. I would be very grateful. We do have a cup holder here. Because there's no manual transmission, I don't feel like the cup holder is really getting in the way much. There is one a little bit further back if you go ahead and slide this little deck lid back. So this might be a better position if you're buying a Z and you want one with a manual. You might want to put your cup holder here, and then you do have a little bit of storage space. You just go ahead and push this button again, and you get a little bit of center storage in that little armrest. And in terms of trunk space, this is something that the Z has always done really well, dating back even to the 350Z. You get this large hatch area, just like you used to get on a Corvette. The Supra has something similar, but it's not quite as wide as this. So you just get this big, expansive area with which to put your stuff, so you can put a lot of bags back here. But I do recommend buying like one of those tight cargo nets that holds your stuff in place, because if you are doing spirited driving, your stuff's going to be sliding all over the place, and because it is like open into the cabin, you will hear it. Last but not least, we will go over the styling, which is changed here for the Nismo model. I thought that the standard Z was a really, really good looking car. It was one area where you could not fault Nissan for. I guess some people didn't like the grille shape. It just kind of looked like the car had too much of a gaping mouth. But I will say, that complaint, if you were one of those people that was complaining about that, is gone now for the Nismo. You get a special front end. They call it like the G nose. It's kind of the same as what you used to get on the 240Z. I think it still looks great. I think the new grille definitely fits the design a little bit better than the base one. You do get a special black accent here that says Nismo. And then just like previous Nismo Z models, you get a red pinstripe that kind of goes all the way down the side and continues onto the rear diffuser as well. You also see a little bit of red striping here on the mirror as well. We do get forged raised wheels that look really cool in black. You get slightly larger brakes on the Nismo Z, and you get these Dunlop performance tires that are a little bit wider than what you get on the standard Z. Here at the back, the shape remains the same, but again, I really like the look of this little red lip. We've got the two big exhaust ports as well. I love the taillights that are reminiscent of the 300ZX, which was just such a cool looking car. And we do have a slightly larger ducktail spoiler than what you're gonna get on the standard Z. Overall, this is just a really cool looking sports car. I think you are gonna get a lot of looks in this car. And last but not least, we've gotta answer the question of how much this car costs. So the pricing for the Z for 2024 has gone up a little bit. It now starts at just over $42,000. You used to be able to get it for just under 40 grand. So a little bit of a price increase on the Z overall. To step up to the performance trim, which I think most people are gonna want to do, it's gonna be $52,000, so a $10,000 price increase, but you do get a limited slip differential, you get power heated leather seats, you get the larger infotainment screen with wireless Apple CarPlay. It really is worth it if you just want a nicer interior and if you're an enthusiast who wants that limited slip diff. Now, as for the Nismo, this is going to add about $12,000 to the price of that Z Performance, so we're looking at just under 65 grand. Now, that does put it in some very treacherous territory. The Ford Mustang Dark Horse, which has 500 horsepower, is less expensive than this. The Toyota Supra, which is less powerful but does come with a manual transmission, is also less expensive than this. So it's a really tough decision, I think, that you're going to have to make. If you are never going to take this car to the track, I think you're probably better off saving your 12 grand and just getting the Z Performance or even the Z Sport if you're just kind of a casual enthusiast. If you really are a track rat, I think the Mustang Dark Horse is going to be a lot faster than this. Of course, an American muscle car like the Mustang is really not the same feel as something like this Z Nismo. But I want to know in the comment section what you would do. If you had $65,000 to spend, would you get the Z Nismo, or would you spend your money elsewhere on something like the Supra or the Mustang Dark Horse? Let me know in the comments, and as always, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe to our channel, and ring that notification bell to be alerted of our latest videos. I'll see you next time.